Hey everyone, today we're going to take a look at this 2021 Toyota Avalon. The big news with the Avalon for 2021 is that it's now available with all-wheel drive. That comes exclusively with a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine. You can only get that engine with all-wheel drive, and you can only get all-wheel drive with that engine. All other Avalons come with either a V6 engine or in hybrid form. This vehicle is built on the same platform as the Camry, and it also shares its underpinnings with the Lexus ES. In fact, it shares all of its powertrains with the Lexus ES as well. Toyota bills it as a full-size sedan, but I'm more inclined to call it a larger mid-size sedan. It's slightly larger than the Camry in terms of back seat and trunk dimensions, but only slightly. And in fact, the Honda Accord is actually bigger than the Avalon when it comes to back seat and trunk space. But either way, this is a pretty competent vehicle. It's been around a long time, so let's take a tour of this one and then take it out for a drive. This is the 5th generation Toyota Avalon. It came out for the 2019 model year. It's built on Toyota's TNGA platform that now underpins everything from the RAV4 to the Avalon here to the Corolla, Highlander, Sienna. It's pretty much universal throughout Toyota's lineup, at least with regard to front-wheel drive passenger cars. You could say this one has a little bit more character than in generations past. It's got a rather large grille up front. This is a fully loaded limited model. Like I mentioned, it has all-wheel drive. These are 18-inch wheels. Pretty subtle design there. Around back, you'll notice that the taillights connect in the middle. It says Avalon through that section there, and then right here limited, and there's the new all-wheel drive badge. Trunk release is between the O and the M in Avalon. Here's your trunk. This one has some rubberized floor mats. The Avalon kind of gets its own logo here. There's a cargo net back here. Notice the hinges are covered in this plastic trim. You can put down the second row seats via the trunk here. Just pull on these things. This trunk, you'll note, isn't that much bigger than the trunk in the Camry. The Camry has 15.1 cubic feet, and the Avalon here has 16.1 cubic feet. I was expecting that difference to be much greater, but you only get one additional cubic foot with the Avalon compared to the Camry. Nothing to grab onto under here. That's interesting, but anyway. Rear 3/4 view here. I like this exterior color. It's a dark blue. Then inside, it's got what I like to call a basketball interior. Here's the window sticker. So this is a 2021 Toyota Avalon. It's built at Toyota's assembly plant in Georgetown, Kentucky. That's also where the Camry and the Lexus ES are built. This one is fully loaded. Like I said, stickers for $44,728 when you factor in that $995 destination fee. Fuel economy with all-wheel drive comes in at 25 city, 34 highway, 28 combined. Speaking of fuel economy, we might as well cross-reference those with some of the Avalon's other powertrains. I'm on fueleconomy.gov right here. So the one that we're sitting in is this 2021 Avalon all-wheel drive, 25 city, 34 highway, 28 combined. The regular Avalon V6 gets slightly worse fuel economy, 22 city, 31 highway, 25 combined. Keep in mind that that V6 gives you about an additional 100 horsepower. That's pretty significant. Here's the Avalon Hybrid. It returns 43 combined all around, which is pretty cool. That's pretty impressive. One trim level of the Avalon Hybrid gets an additional MPG highway and combined. And then there is the Avalon TRD. That's the slightly performance-oriented Avalon. Doesn't get any changes to its powertrain, just uses the V6 and front-wheel drive, but it has bigger brakes, stiffer suspension, it should offer better handling, and it has a pretty aggressive body kit on it. It's actually a pretty unique trim level. That returns 21 city, 30 highway, 25 combined. Compared to the regular V6, that is a difference of about 1 MPG all around. I like this interior. It's plenty functional. I think this interior color goes well with the dark blue exterior. You'll notice the driver center stack here is slightly tilted toward the driver's seat. Here's your infotainment screen. Toyota infotainment has come a long way in the past few years. You've got all your HVAC controls right here, so heated and ventilated seats. And then over here is the heated steering wheel. We'll go ahead and turn that off. It's pretty warm outside today. There's this nice wood finish right here. You can feel the grain in it. Feels like good quality. Moving down the door panel, this is soft touch, soft leather wrapped here. Some pretty serious stitching going on right here. There's 2 different rows of stitching for each one of these designs. The top one matches the brown color right here, and then the bottom one is like a silvery white. Steering wheel is pretty familiar. That brown color carries over onto the wheel. There's a screen in the gauge cluster here, pretty much par for the course these days. This is pretty familiar. It's used across pretty much all Toyota products. No paddle shifters on this one. Performance isn't really the name of the game here. This is kind of a nice touch. One of the HVAC vents goes into the dashboard, so the vent itself is just right here, but then that chrome strip goes into the dashboard, even carries over to here, and then finishes off in another vent right there. Center console is pretty basic. It's wrapped in leather. That's kind of nice. There's a storage bin right here with a wireless charging pad. You could put things right here if you wanted, and then if you wanted to charge a phone, you could put it down in there. So that's pretty versatile. One cup holder here, and then a different shaped cup holder right there. That's pretty unique. Driving modes right here. You've got Eco, Normal, and Sport. Electronic parking brake with an auto hold function, and then just a basic 8-speed automatic transmission lever right there. Inside the console box, you've got USB-A and a USB-C port. USB-C finally starting to make its way into Toyota products. It's nice to see. Then there's another USB-A port over there on the side. Nothing else in there. You got a little tray right here. I think that covers the front seating area. Let's move to the back seat. So pretty spacious back here. This is a large midsize sedan after all, or a full-size sedan if you're going off of Toyota's marketing materials. Heated seats in the second row, and then there's a USB-A port and a USB-C port, so your back row passengers can charge their devices as well. HVAC on the back of the center console there. Handles, JBL audio system, window controls, one touch up and down. You got pockets on both seat backs here. Normal size sunroof, no panoramic, overhead grab handles, and then lights that you can actually turn on from back here as well. Speaking of legroom in the second row of this vehicle, I found another interesting measurement. So we'll go to my notepad here. So here is the Avalon. It offers 40.3 inches of second row legroom. So that's the distance between the seat bottom and the seat back here. The Camry offers 38 inches even, so about 2.3 inches fewer. But then the Honda Accord actually offers 40.4 inches. So the Accord, in terms of both cargo volume and second row legroom, is a little bit bigger than not only the Camry, but it's also bigger than the Avalon. I thought that was a really telling measurement there. One more thing, center armrest with cup holders, and then I guess you could put your device in there. That's actually kind of nice. So you could be riding along back here, charging off of USB-C with a heated seat and the armrest down, and have a place to put your phone and a drink. So kind of nice. Okay, the Avalon. Sometimes it's just nice to drive a big, comfortable, well-conceived vehicle, and that's really what the Avalon is. There's 50, so this powertrain definitely leaves a little bit to be desired. You only get 205 horsepower out of this 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. That's about 100 horsepower fewer than what you get out of the V6. Of course, the V6 is only available with front-wheel drive, so you're really trading 100 horsepower for 4-wheel traction. And I should mention that front-wheel drive V6, 4-cylinder all-wheel drive, they're priced exactly the same. So it's pretty much an even trade-off. 100 horsepower, 4-wheel traction. You can decide. Yeah, that's kind of the one drawback to this vehicle. All-wheel drive is certainly nice if you live in cold climates that see a lot of snow. That said, anytime I've gone out to drive this year, the roads have been clear, so in theory that's nice to have all-wheel drive, but in practice I have to question how often it's really going to benefit you, and if it's fewer than, say, 2 or 3 times a year, then I'd still probably go with the V6 in this car. Other than the powertrain having to work really hard though, I gotta say, this thing's pretty refined, pretty nice. Touch points are all good, interior layout's pretty nice, intuitive, no real complaints there. This vehicle is built on the same platform as the Lexus ES. I kind of look at the ES as the luxury version of the Avalon, which is interesting because the Avalon itself is supposed to be a slightly more luxurious, more refined, slightly larger version of the Camry. The ES and the Avalon here, they have very, very similar proportions, obviously, but the two vehicles do look pretty different. The ES has a completely different interior. There's no parts sharing when it comes to the dashboard or anything like that. So Toyota and Lexus do a pretty good job of differentiating the two. Outside of Toyota, other vehicles that you might consider alongside the Avalon, well, there aren't as many of them these days. You used to have the Ford Taurus, you used to have the Chevrolet Impala. Both of those vehicles have been discontinued. As far as American automakers go, I guess you've still got the Dodge Charger, although that thing's been around for like 15 years almost without a full redesign. And the two vehicles really sit on opposite ends of the spectrum. The Charger is rear-wheel drive based, it's loud, comes with V8 engines. The Avalon here is front-wheel drive based, comes with 4-cylinder and 6-cylinder engines. So yeah, they're kind of opposite ends of the spectrum there. You can still get the Charger with a V6, but you know what I mean. There's also the Nissan Maxima. That vehicle has been out for a really long time since its last redesign. The Maxima, even then, would only compete with the V6 Avalon because the Maxima is only available with a 6-cylinder and front-wheel drive. The three powertrains here with the Avalon are a pretty even trade-off. You've got power, efficiency, all-wheel drive. You kind of get to pick one. You can't have any of the others when you pick one of them. So that's kind of funny, but it is a pretty fair trade-off, I guess. I was pretty surprised to see that this vehicle is no bigger than the Honda Accord, or in fact that the Accord is a little bit bigger than the Avalon. I was expecting it to be significantly bigger than the Camry, and even then you get an additional cubic foot of cargo space and 2.3 inches of second row legroom, and then the Accord actually bests the Avalon's figures there by a little bit. Here's a speed bump. Yeah, that was at about 15 miles per hour. Felt smooth. We've got the big one coming up here. 20 miles per hour. Pretty smooth. Yeah, I wish the powertrain was a little bit quieter. I think that's my only real criticism. Well, I guess you could say another criticism is the backup camera, because like in most Toyotas, it's awful. All right, well, there is your look at the 2021 Toyota Avalon. It's interesting alone that Toyota is still building this vehicle. Most of its competitors have either done away with their large mid-size sedans or at least stopped updating them like Nissan has with the Maxima. But the Avalon here was redesigned for 2019. Toyota is still adding trim levels and variants. You can now get this vehicle with all-wheel drive. It's available as a hybrid. There's also the Avalon TRD, which from what I've read, I've not driven it, but it sounds like that vehicle is somewhat impressive itself. Toyota has really kind of come up with a lot of different variants of this vehicle, but at its core, I think this vehicle would make sense for someone who doesn't want a Lexus. Maybe they don't want to pay for a Lexus. They aren't looking for a really high-end luxury car, but they want something that's semi-premium. They don't want an SUV, and that group of people is shrinking and shrinking as the years go by. But you have to not want an SUV to get an Avalon, and I think you're gonna want the extra space if you buy this vehicle. But that brings me back to my earlier point. This thing is actually slightly smaller than the Honda Accord in terms of cargo and back seat dimensions. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Nice interior, decent ride. I think I'd still probably go with the V6. That 300 horsepower puts the vehicle into the quick territory. Without it, with this 205 horsepower 4-cylinder, this thing's pretty slow. So yeah, while the pool of people who are interested in something like an Avalon is probably shrinking, I gotta say this vehicle is well conceived. All the active safety tech you want, all the infotainment stuff you want, pretty comfortable. My biggest takeaway is probably that I'd still go with the V6 over this all-wheel drive 4-cylinder model. And that's the Avalon. Thanks for watching.